Alrighty, so I'm excited to show you guys, this is the MNNTHBX 890 and 790 Duke integrated tail fender. There's not many YouTube videos about this. Sometimes you can see them just pre-installed on the bike itself, but as far as what it looks like before installation, as well as that whole process, I wasn't able to find anything, so I figured, hey, I'd show you guys just kind of my overall perception and review of the system, as well as these Rizoma Corsa S lights. The thing is, I was taking a look at all the Amazon lights, the motorcycle turn signals. You can get some for pretty dang cheap, around 10 bucks or so. The problem I had with those is I didn't know how long are they going to last? Are they plastic? Are they good quality or not? Now, guys, I'll admit, these are very expensive, the Rizoma Corsa S lights. These are about 100 bucks a pop, and then your mounting hardware here for MNNTHBX is around all said and done, guys, you're going to be in this about 320 bucks with shipping and everything. And so we'll take a look at it. I'll walk you guys through the mounting process, as well as the wiring, how to get everything integrated with the bike itself, and then we'll give it a rating and see, hey, how does it fare? As of now, guys, honestly, looks like a 10 out of 10. I think this is going to be a hit. So I'm excited, and I'll see you there. Alrighty guys, so the very first thing that we're going to want to do before trying to mount this onto the bike or wire it into the bike's wiring harness is we need to thread each of these wires through the actual mounting block itself. So the hole that the light has to go through, it's actually a pretty small diameter hole, especially with these rubber grommets and everything, the seals around each of the wires. It is kind of difficult to get it wired through. So what you're going to want to do is this kind of, if you will, call this like kind of little sheath. This is your heat shield around the wires here. You're going to want to pull that back and get as close to the lights, the base of the light here as possible. What that's going to do is that's going to free up some space up here up top so that you can just thread each of your wires through the hole individually. Once you're done with that, you can finally pull the light through, and then we're just going to do the exact same process with your washer and then followed by the nut. I apologize, my bike's pretty dirty. It's winter time, and so it's got a lot of slush and crap on the road. Got my bike a few months back, and I just got so impatient that I wanted to get that big honking original tail fender off the bike. So got rid of that and ended up just buying something off of Amazon. It was real cheap. It was like 20-30 bucks. I took the original brake light, and I had no real way of mounting that to the tail tidy, so I ended up just using a bunch of tie wire. And I mean, the thing's solid. It's not going anywhere, but just long term, it wasn't what I was looking for. So we got the original tail fender here that I had jerry rigged up. We got that removed finally. What I did is, instead of cutting into the actual wiring harness of the bike itself after the connector for the lights, you're going to want to end up just cutting the wires from the turn signals and also the brake light themselves. So you're just gonna chop off the very back of those. After we're done with that, we're just gonna strip each of those wires, right? So we've got the brake light with the running lights and our ground, and then you've got our left and right turn signals here. Now for the fun part, we're gonna take the assembly we've got going on already. You already took your washer as well as the nut, you put those over the wiring, and you're gonna wanna tighten those up in the block. That's a 12 mil open-ended wrench. Just make sure, obviously you got enough space in there. Just tighten that up, make sure that everything's aligned properly, that they're at the same angle. Unfortunately, there isn't a little, little pin or something to self-align. You're gonna have to do that yourself and just eyeball it. After that, you're gonna take the wires, you're gonna fish those up through the bottom of the bike. And so luckily you've got a nice little rubber grommet there for just water sealing and everything, and then you'll be good. So what we got going on here is we've got the red and black wires. This is coming from the white light for the license plate light. You're gonna take that and we're gonna wire that into the wire harness now. You're gonna take the red wire and we're gonna integrate that in, as you can kind of see here, integrate that into the yellow wire, and then you're gonna take the black wire and that's gonna, you're gonna wrap around the brown wire coming out just like that. So I decided to use, these are the 5/32. They're the female bullet terminals. I just went down to AutoZone. I picked these up for around $4. What we're gonna use these for is we're gonna put them on the end of all of the wires on the actual wire harness for the bike, right? Now, you guys don't have to use those. You can just solder, used to use, soldering iron or whatever, or heck, maybe just, some electrical tape. But I decided to use these because it's going to connect nicely to these male, these male connectors that are on the Rizoma lights themselves. And that's going to integrate nicely with the resistors that the lights came with as well. What we ended up doing is instead of just crimping the barrel ends on, I ended up putting a little bit of solder in there as well. So I just used a cheap soldering iron and dip some solder in there, and that's just for extra comfort, just making sure that you know, peace of mind that those wires aren't going to be pulling out, right? If you look carefully here, so we have our two turn signals on the left side and the right side, and then the middle one, right? That's the one with the 3 wires coming out, that harness. That's for your running light and your brake light, okay? So on your guys' turn signals, you'll see on the inside there's a purple and a brown wire, okay? But coming out actually is a brown and a black. Same thing on the right side here. We actually have a black and a brown on inside the harness, but coming out is a red and a brown, okay? So on the inside here of these harnesses, the brown wire is actually the ground. Same thing here, the brown wire is the ground. So coming out, that actually happens to be the red on the right side here, and then the black on that side there. I splice those together, right? So we want to splice those together and put those into one barrel end connector. And then here, if you see, you can see the purple wire, that actually ends up being the brown. That's going to be for your turn signal indicator. And then on the right side here, you've got the black, which also comes out as brown as well. Okay, so we want to make sure we don't get those mixed up. That was a mistake. I assumed that the brown and brown were both grounds, and then the red and the black were our turn signals. That's not the case. You want to make sure that it's consistent coming all the way through. Coming out here on your brake light and your running lights, you've obviously got your red wire here and your black wire. This is from the white light for our license plate light. The red wire splices into our yellow coming out there, and then our black wire splices into our brown, which is also going to be the ground. So just making sure we got that all organized and set up properly. So we're going to be moving on from the wiring harness side of things, and then we're actually going to look at the wires coming out of the lights themselves, okay? So we got those coming up and through the back of the bike, and then here's the end of both of our lights. So now what you're going to want to end up doing on this one is your red and your white wires coming out of each of the lights need to be spliced together. Now you don't have to do it how I did it per se, but I just chose one light and I ended up chopping or just kind of cutting off the barrel end connector of the red wire and the white wire on one of the lights, and I spliced those into the barrel end connector of the other light. Now, obviously it doesn't look pretty. It's kind of a crap solder job there. I got too much of the heat shrink of the wires in it, so it's a little burned up, but it doesn't matter. There's a solid connection there. And that leaves our our green wire and our black wire free on either of the cables. So our white have to come together, splice together, and then our red also have to be spliced together from both lights. So in the box with the lights, you'll notice that there's 2 resistors that come with each light. With our system, at least with the bikes here in the US, we only need to use 2 resistors, 1 resistor on each light. You'll see that if you read through the manual, there's a couple different configurations that you can run these in. I figured that there's only one that actually works for the bikes here in the US, so we don't get hyperflash. Hyperflash is on your dash. You'll see that it's, if there's not enough resistance in the system, it just won't function properly. So when you got to use your turn signals, you'll get an error message on the dash. We don't want that to happen, so we're going to make sure we wire these in here properly. So we've got a male and a female for both the red and the blacks, okay? So on the green wires coming out of the end of your lights, that's where we're going to connect the red end of our resistor, okay? So with one green wire, we're going to connect in one resistor, and then with the other green wire, we're going to use the other resistor and connect that in here as well. So we'll show you what that looks like. When you're all finished up, you've got both your left and right turn signals. Coming out of one turn signal, you have your black wire that's going into the black wire of one resistor. Then you have your green that's going into your red. Same thing for your other side. You've got one black wire going into the black wire of your resistor, and then same thing, green going into red. As I showed you guys before, in the middle, we have our whites spliced together into one barrel end connector, and then we've got our reds spliced together into another. Now this is the fun part. This is where we're going to connect our resistors and the rest of our barrel ends to the bike's wiring harness that we already looked over. We got a lot of colors here, so let's try not to get confused. I'll make sure I show you guys exactly how to do that. Now I'm gonna end up using a little bit of heat shrink here on the ends of my barrel connectors. That way I don't end up shorting out any wires, and it just makes sure everything looks nice and neat. We're gonna focus in here on the red and white wires that are spliced together. Those are gonna be the first ones. So the red wires of the lights that come together into one barrel end connector, that's going to connect into the barrel end coming in here on the bike's wiring harness. Okay, so we have our left and our right turn signals. Then we have our brake and our running light, okay? In those, we have a brown wire, a white wire, and a yellow wire. So the red wires that are spliced together here, those are gonna connect into our white wire. It's actually covered up by the heat shrink. And then we're gonna have our white wires that are spliced together. That's gonna connect into our yellow wire here, which is also connected into the red wire, which is the white light for our license plate. For the next part, you're just gonna choose one of the resistors, it doesn't matter which one, and pick up your black wire. That black wire is going to connect into the wiring harness of the bike, which is our black and our brown that we've got it coming in together. Okay, so just connect in either, doesn't matter which one. Okay, in this case, right, this guy right here, and just connect it in right there. That's our black and brown spliced together. So this is what that's gonna look like. You'll have your black wire connected into your ground from your running light and your tail and your brake light. What we're gonna do next is take the black wire coming out of the other resistor, and that's gonna connect into the ground that we have spliced together for our right and left turn signals. In this case, on my bike, it was a red and black wire. So we're gonna take those and we're gonna connect it into the black wire of the resistor. The last part here, we're gonna connect the turn signal indicators. So we've got only 2 wires left. We've got the reds coming out of our resistors. So you're gonna take the resistor that's connected to your left turn signal. Okay, that's gonna connect into the green wire there. So the left turn signal resistor, that's going to connect into the wiring harness that's connected to your purple wire right there. You'll see that coming out, obviously it's brown here, but it's connected to our purple wire in the wire harness. Then you'll take the other resistor and you'll just plug it in the last one. It's actually gonna be the black wire coming up, and that's gonna be your right turn signal. Perfect, so now we got all that wired in together. I'll make sure to put in the little diagram that's on their website. It's pretty simple. Once you just look at it, just make sure you connect all the wires together in the proper way. I guess this is the moment of truth, so we're gonna test everything out to make sure everything's running exactly how it should. Obviously the lights aren't mounted yet, but we'll see. Make sure everything's good. Guys, these lights are super, super bright, way brighter than the stock, so don't worry about, hey, they're so small, it's not gonna work, whatever. These things are crazy bright. We'll make sure now that on our left turn signal, we've got no indicator coming up there on the dash. Everything's working how it should. Coming back, beautiful. And then we'll switch to the right side. No warning signs there on the dash. Look at it from the back, working exactly how it should. All right, now we'll make sure that the brake lights work. So we'll pull the lever there. You'll see, guys, that got those working exactly how they should. Beautiful. So once you guys got your heat shrink finished up and good to go, I just took some zip ties and zip tied together all the excess wire here in the back of the bike. So here's the 2 lights itself, and this is the wire from the license plate light. That's just gonna make sure that the back of the bike isn't too cluttered up with all the wires. Finishing up here, we got our 4 bolts. We got 2 long ones, 2 short ones. The 2 long ones are gonna go here in the back, and our 2 shorter ones are gonna go here in the front. I'm just gonna use a little bit of blue Loctite just to make sure those aren't vibrating out over time. Just so you guys are aware, on the bottom side here, the screws in the front are a little different size than those here in the back. Also, don't forget to take out this middle one here, this middle guy here. Take that out, get a little bit of Loctite on that, and tighten that down as well. Once we're all finished up, this is the final result. I apologize for all the crap in the background, guys. Don't worry about it. But very, very solid, minimalistic design. Really, the question is, do you guys want to spend 320 bucks? It is expensive. Do I regret it? Not at all. I think this is by far the best design, the best tail tidy, or fender eliminator, whatever you want to call it, that's out there. There are different options that are definitely a lot cheaper. However, they don't feature these Rizoma lights that are super bright and obviously tiny. We don't have any more of these bulky brake lights. It's super nice because it's just very low profile. It's integrated in the back very nicely, and it's just a high quality product. So it's for you to decide. This is the route I decided to go. Hopefully you guys could understand the whole wiring process. It was kind of difficult to film, but hopefully it wasn't too complicated in the end.